What is going on? We are ready to go. Today is the day, to be honest with you, for all you fans of the New York Mets. Today is the day you've been waiting for all year. Jacob deGrom is finally back on the mound for the New York Mets, Metropolitans. Also back off the IL again today, starting Max Scherzer in the MLB. Again, the deGrom is only starting in the minors and doing some rehab starts right now. So today is the day that you honestly is the biggest hope for Mets fans. When we look at this and we look at what we're trying to do here with the New York Mets and what they've been trying to do all year, their whole goal was obviously to have Scherzer, deGrom as their 1-2. deGrom, Scherzer, however you want to put it. For me, it's deGrom, Scherzer. I do like both of them, but deGrom obviously got hurt at the beginning of the year. Scherzer's been out for a little bit of time, but the good news for Mets fans is they have held the line and they still are leading in the NL East. So we want to know what's going on with them now. What is it going to take for them to make the playoffs and make a good run into the playoffs, and why I think the Mets right now could be the team to beat, even though obviously the Braves are streaking right now. But when we get into it, we're going to get into obviously the first thing of the deGrom first start in the rehab start. We have here, he puts up, again, struck out 5 out of 6 batters, faced to 18 to 24 pitches for strikes in his first rehab start in Class A. Again, it is Class A ball. I completely understand that. I'm not stupid. But this is huge news for the Mets, because if he can come back and throw this many percentage of strikes while fanning 5 out of 6 batters, it was said that he did reach 100 miles per hour a couple of times, which is huge for him. Because if he can come back and be that guy, and in my mind, honestly, I don't know how long it actually was for him to get healthy. Him coming back right now feels like he may have been healthy a month ago, but they wanted to wait to see what was going to happen until the All-Star break, right? Now that they see they're 3.5 games up on the All-Star team, and right now in the division, going into the All-Star break, they have a few things that they can work on, and that's where we're going to go from here, right? Obviously, you have Scherzer starting today. He came back from his strained oblique. He's going to start tonight. You got everything rolling, and if they can make it through the schedule that they have the next couple of days here, they have Cincy, Miami, Atlanta. This, obviously, July 11th through 13th is going to be a tough stretch for them because they're at the Braves. But then you have the Cubs going into the All-Star break and the draft, and I expect deGrom to come back right after this point of the 17th, which is huge for them, because once they have Scherzer and deGrom back and they start going healthily throughout the rest of the season, I would not be surprised if they take off and end up getting the number 1 seed in the National League. Yes, being better than the Dodgers. Now, do I think that the Dodgers are a bad team? No. Do I think that the Braves are a bad team? No. Do I think the Cardinals are a bad team? No. But do I think the Mets, with their pitching, going down the back end of this specific, set of schedule, because once they get into the second half of their schedule here, which is going to be a little crazy, they need their pitching to be there. I mean, they got San Diego, New York, Miami, Washington's a little bit, but they got Atlanta coming up, Philly coming up, Atlanta coming up, Philly coming up, New York, Dodgers. I mean, they have a really tough schedule coming down the back stretch, and without guys like deGrom and Scherzer, they're not going to be able to do this. And I will even throw this in Megill and Bassett too. Those guys are really good 3-4 when it comes to the regular season. When it comes down to the playoff time, they are absolutely going to need deGrom, Scherzer. Can it take them to the World Series? I think it can. But let's look at their lineup right now. I do think that they are 1 or 2 pieces away, specifically offensively, from being able to get to the World Series and make a run at maybe trying to beat one of these AL teams like the Astros or Yankees when they get, or the Red Sox, whoever ends up being the team, right? So when we look at this, obviously 1 through 7 is pretty good. I could see them getting a little bit better in left field. We'll talk about that when it comes to that. But their DH and their catcher role are not really hitting the ball as well as you want them to. Okay, they're doing pretty well, but their OPS is really low, especially at the catcher's position. Now, number 1 plus for the New York Mets, they do have Francisco Alvarez, a catching prospect, one of the best catching prospects in the game. He had just got called up to AAA from AA, and he has been raking in AA. So we'll see how he's going to do that. But does that mean that they're not going to be in the market for a catcher? It could mean that they're in market for a catcher, but they do need 2 hitters or 1 really big bat, right? And for me, I would like to see them get Wilson Contreras from the Cubs. If they can find a way to package Wilson Contreras from the Cubs and maybe Happ as well, that would be a good thing too, because they do need an outfield piece, just like another hitter for when Contreras DHs and then Alvarez comes up. But I say Contreras, and here's the reason why. Number one, he's having a hell of a year. He's hitting unbelievable this year. He's doing very, very well. 270 is OPS of 890. That's really good for a defensive catcher, and he's a good defensive catcher as well. Okay. Secondly, is he's only going to be there for this rest of the season, and then they can get rid of him, bring up Alvarez, and he could take over. Also, when September comes rolling around, so Alvarez can come up and have someone like Wilson Contreras there to kind of help him out and show him the ropes in the major leagues, which will help him in his development quickly. He doesn't have to come up and be the guy. I know Nitto is good. If you go back and you look at this, Nitto is good as a defensive catcher, and he's not a bad player overall. But when you're talking about getting into the World Series, you need a top-down from 1 to 9 lineup that is going to do really, really well for you. And I think Wilson Contreras, not only can he come in and play in the catcher role and not have you, obviously your catcher is the 9-hole, but he might be able to DH at times too, which will help you later, especially if Alvarez comes in and in September can get two, three starts a week, maybe 1 start a week, and obviously keep Contreras off his feet, allow him to stay out from behind the backstop, and give him some of those reps that you really, really need. Now, what I will tell you again is another thing you need is another hitter. Now, I don't like Dominic Smith. I never did. Whoever thought that couple years ago when it was Dominic Smith versus Pete Alonso, who's going to start at first base when they were coming out of spring training, and then Pete Alonso came out and he dropped 40-something bombs as a rookie record. He is the polar bear, the guy at first base, stalwart there for them for the next 10 years, however long they decide to keep him. Dominic Smith is a good player. Don't get me wrong, okay? He is a good player, but he is not good enough to go to the World Series with. So what I would say is I have 2 options here for the Mets fans. I say grab Tommy Pham from Cincinnati Reds. I like the way he works. He can play left field if he needs to. Doesn't always have to play left field. I do like the fact that he can play left field, but he's having a pretty good year. He's obviously having a little bit better year than Dominic Smith, but you put him into a lineup where he's not surrounded by absolute trash like he's got at Cincinnati, and I think he ends up taking off. You can slot him in at DH. You can even put him in left field when you want to give Mark Canha a little bit of a break, but I do think he's obviously hitting way better here than Dominic Smith. If you can see Dominic Smith here is just 603, that's not going to cut it. Nitto 487 is not going to cut it. When you come here to Tommy Pham's stats, right now he's hitting 718s, the OPS plus of 301 or 103. He's absolutely doing what he needs to do from that side. If you put him a little lower in the lineup and not make him have to be in the 3-hole hitter, I think his numbers go even crazier. If that's something that they can't pull off because for some reason the Reds don't want to trade the guy that they picked up for 1 year this year, then I say you go Brian Reynolds. Obviously, Brian Reynolds is a Pirate, and there's a few other guys that I would ask for, like maybe Nelson Cruz from Washington, but I don't see them trading in division. They may, because Washington may just be resetting for next year and hoping Juan Soto can come back and be the guy who they were. But look at these numbers. I mean, you have left field. He plays outfield, so you can play any position, which is fine. That gives you a lot of different things. You can have Nemo come out if he needs to. You can have Starling Marte, who I obviously don't want him to come out. These guys need to produce. But Brian Reynolds is absolute beast right now. He's been really good for the last couple of years, but he's starting to take off. And I know that the Pirates would love to get him moved so they can get some guys in the prospects, because that's what the Pirates do. They never hang on to anybody, and they never actually develop a full team. They always trade all their prospects right before they're good. The Pirates, I think, would take JT Ginn and Matt Allen. They do need a couple starting pitchers. And when it comes to New York, they don't need starting pitching right now. They have 2 more years of these 4 guys, which is great. So they can get rid of some of their prospects. And then if things kind of fall apart later down the line with their actual lineup, here they can trade some of these guys, or they can trade some of their starting lineup guys here. Now, obviously, right now they're kind of putting things together with Walker and Trevor Williams and Carrasco. But their real lineup is going to be DeGrom, Scherzer, McGill, Bassett, and then any of these guys at number 5, right? Which to me is a World Series type lineup. Now, if you go to their bullpen, they don't really need a lot of help there either. They could get some help, but they don't really need it. They have Edwin Diaz, obviously, sprinkle a little sugar on top of that thing. He is an elite closer. You have Adam Ottavino, who's an elite setup guy. Trevor May, who is a really, really good guy, and the relief in Seth Lugo. They really don't have much they need. With their starting pitching and how deep they can go, you really only need these 4 guys when it comes down to the playoffs, okay? That is assuming that people like Scherzer and DeGrom, McGill, Bassett can do what they're supposed to do and go deep into games. And that's what I think they're definitely going to do, and that's how it's going to have to work for the Mets. So when I sit here and I say that it's time for the Mets to go and they need to take off, the Mets here, it is time for the Mets to go out and make a couple moves and make the World Series. That we could see another New York World Series. I don't really think that's going to happen because I do like the Astros over the Yankees, even though the Yankees have a better record. I like the way the Astros have played against the Yankees. They did just go into New York and beat the Mets and the Yankees 7 out of 8 total games in that stretch, which is supposed to be really difficult for them. And they do have an absolute stud in Yordano Alvarez, which we'll get into when we get into the Astros stuff like that. But that's fine. But again, when you look at the Braves, the Phillies, these guys are going to be buyers. I don't think the Braves are really going to buy. They may actually try to move to get somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Braves try to get somebody like a Whit Merrifield to shore up second base now that Ozzie Albies has been hurt for the whole year. But other than that, I really think it's going to be a big year for the Mets, and they actually need to go ahead and do something if they want to make it to the World Series. This is the time, and the time is now. It's either now or never because they're not going to get another shot at this because they have a few guys on their lineup that are going to start kind of fading away, and everyone is hot. Their team is hot right now. Everybody on the offensive side is doing their job. They need to go out there. They need to get things done with their 2 big pitchers coming back. It's now or never for the Mets. I appreciate you guys sticking in. Like, subscribe, do whatever you guys got to do. I appreciate it. For more content, we're going to be coming out with a video every single day now. Tomorrow, we're going to be going over some stuff on what I think I need to do in the AL, and then we'll go from there. So I appreciate everything you guys do. Again, smash the like button, subscribe if you like to comment. Let me know down below if you think the Mets are going to make the World Series, and we're going to go from there. Appreciate it.